Next Saturday, Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Next Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe, the editors of said website, Mavs Moneyball. It's about 9:45 on Thursday night, October 27th. We're somehow recording at 9:45 at night, despite a 6:40 tip-off. The Dallas Mavericks prevailed over the Brooklyn Nets, 129-125, and an overtime game that featured how many? 70 or 65 free throws, 51 called fouls. Good gracious. It was a game that just really just kept going. The Mavericks won. I'm tempted. A local sports personality tweeted, "The Mavericks are good. Get over it," which was outstanding way to end the game. It was a really fun game, weird game. Not really sure how to talk about it. How are you, Josh?
I'm good. It was definitely, there were some shaky moments, and I don't think I would have logged on to Twitter if the Mavericks lost this game and dropped to, what would they have been? They'd be 1-3 with the Knicks 3-1 and Jalen Brunson looking good. Like I would like, not to say that I would have been like mad or like this. I just don't want to deal with it 4 games in. I just do not want to deal with overreaction or just. And I understand, your big thing is, fans are fans. We should get mad from time to time because like people are passionate following the team. But I would have tried to avoid everything. So it's really good that they won. I think that they did some things better than their last game against the Pelicans. I think they did maybe some things not as good against the Pelicans, but they did what they needed to do. They needed to get a win, and you can look at the schedule and it sets up a lot nicer for them for like the next 2 weeks. They play a lot of games at home, so
Trap games, but
yeah, but this is the kind of game, OT win on the road against we might not think Brooklyn is good, but I'm sure those guys on the floor, when they're playing against Durant and Kyrie Irving, they have probably a different perspective on that group of guys. So, like, this could be the kind of win that galvanizes you into making a good run.
You hope so, because, we got on here the other night, and 2 of the Mavs losses to date, both Mavs losses you can attribute to I really earnestly think that you can attribute to Mavericks mistakes over getting beat by a better team. Yeah. And that's sort of been the theme. And that's why I could understand if you're a big time Mavs partisan who thinks that they can win 55 games or whatnot, there's not really been a ton to dissuade that. But the mistakes that have been made up until tonight, and really in tonight too, are ones that I'm not sure what we're learning so far, because my takeaway, like I have two takeaways from this game, seriously, and I'm sure we'll have more once we talk about it. But my first takeaway is Luka Doncic. You actually wrote an article about how the spacing is defenses are staying home on shooters. So a response that I talked about, and I think you kind of laughed it off. You're like, he's just going to get beat up too much. Was Luka going to the rim more? Luka took 22 2-point shots tonight and made 12 of them. He is doing so my first real takeaway, Luka Doncic, obvious exceptional basketball player. My goodness. My second takeaway, and this is really like about all I got, and I'm curious what you think, is like, I thought Josh Green in 13 minutes gave Dallas real. This was the first Josh Green game. Granted, he's 3 for 3 from the field, 4 rebounds. He had 1 turnover, whatever. He played like he did the more than the cardio, and I thought he had really nice defense on Kyrie Irving. And I until he hurt his ankle, I felt like he was getting the kind of looks that Dorian Finney-Smith was getting last year that Dorian no longer gets, because they just left him alone. They said, okay, Josh Green beats us. He beats us. And Josh Green scored 9 points in a game that was decided by 4. And I feel like that's pretty important. But that is about all I have.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about after the Pelicans game, the Pelicans had 8 guys in double figures, and we were kind of lamenting about how the Mavericks roster is so focused on, they basically only have 3 guys that can dribble and score, and all the other guys are just reliant on whatever Luka and Dinwiddie can create. And while the balance was, I mean, Luka scored 41 of the 129 points, so obviously it's not like they were extremely balanced, but they had 6 guys in double figures, and that just makes a difference, man. When, especially with 4 of them coming off the bench, when I think against the Pelicans, like the bench combined to score maybe like 15 points or so, like well, outside of Wood. Sorry, I kind of Freudian slip. I kind of considered Wood a starter there. Almost even consider eventually
starter type thing.
But the non Wood bench players, like 3 of them scoring in double digits matters. Like Hardaway came back and he had a good game, and that, like, you could feel that in his minutes. Were those minutes in the Pelicans games where he was gone, those were filled by Campazzo and more Green, and Campazzo only had to play 3 minutes tonight.
Yep.
Like, you know, that's a big difference, and especially with the way teams are guarding. Like Hardaway is maybe the only guy on the roster that is, I mean, in terms of like being a movement shooter, like we talk about, and relocation and moving without the ball and catching off screens and being comfortable shooting in transition, and then being comfortable shooting when it's not necessarily a perfect clean open look. That makes a big difference. Like a couple of his threes, they're not bad shots necessarily, but like a defender maybe closes out a little closer than you think, but he still had the confidence to fire away. And those aren't necessarily the type of threes that like Bullock or Finney-Smith or Kleber are going to take. And again, it's not a knock on those guys. It's just different skill set kind of thing, you know? So that made a big difference. Like, you know, Green scoring 10 points, Hardaway coming back from a sore foot, scoring 18 points. Like that kind of felt like,
well, they shot 50% from 3 as a team.
And that defense is just abysmal.
Nets are real. Like Ben Simmons played I thought, like, Luka actually scored on him a couple of times I was really surprised about, but Ben Simmons is still just such a stellar defensive player, but he's about it. Like the rest of them can't guard.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of takeaways, the Luka shooting more 2-pointers was great. Only 6 total threes is awesome. Another thing I noticed is there's like like it's clear that this team is still figuring some things out, despite the fact that they're bringing back so many players. And the thing that I'm noticing, they had 17 turnovers tonight, and turnovers were really bad for them in this game, especially in the second half. And I've just been thinking, like, I don't have the turnovers up for the previous games, how many they had, so I don't know if this is actually an issue.
They've been having turnover problems in spurts where
and I'm thinking go ahead. No, I was just thinking, like, I don't want to bring up old wounds, but like, you know, Jalen Brunson was a guy who just literally never turned the ball over. Yeah. And that was a starting guard that played 30 plus minutes a night that you remove from the lineup, and you don't, you know, you're replacing his minutes with basically just more minutes from guys that are already on the team. And like this season, Brunson has 6 turnovers total this season in 4 games. So like the turnovers are going to go up, right? Like there's nothing you can really, like, you know, you're playing.
They had 11 against the Pelicans, which is a little bit.
That's
surprising.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And then I'm pulling out the Grizzlies. That's kind of a wash. But against the Suns, I remember this specifically. I'm pulling up the box score just to make sure. They only had 12 turnovers against the Suns, but they had 6 in 1 quarter.
Yeah.
So
there's
Tonight was like a sloppy. There were some elements of like McGee had 3 turnovers. Like what? How?
Yeah. Like there's going to be those, like, as they're figuring out how to play without kind of that Brunson safety blanket, because I mean, literally the guy just never turned the ball over.
Yep.
Like, it makes sense that they occasionally have a 5-minute stretch where things look really weird and sloppy, because in those 5-minute stretches last season, that was Brunson running the show. Like, there's something to be said that Dinwiddie Dinwiddie was coming off the bench last year for the most part. So
Right.
he's a starter now. He's getting more minutes. He's getting more important touches than he did last season. So they're trying to figure that out, like how to play without Brunson and how to play without that security blanket. How can they still keep running offense? And the good thing is, they're still scoring a crap ton of points. Like, offense has not necessarily
but certain
been the
things
issue
are going to
this
cool.
season.
So
Yeah.
if you were to guess what Spencer Dinwiddie is shooting from 3 through 3 games, what would you think?
I would think very high. Like,
He has
50%?
23 attempts.
Huh?
And he has 13 makes.
Yeah, over
he is
50.
shooting 56% from beyond the line. So it's
Man,
like that's gonna go down by like 20 percentage points, given enough.
You think, but he shot like 40-something% with the Mavs last year. Like, how many games does he have to play to where we're like, all right, I guess he's figured it out?
But he's a 31% 3-point shooter.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, I mean, I guess it's, if we're talking about catch and shoot versus off the dribble, pull up, etc. I don't know. I like his shots that he's taking. I've not thought he's
catch
taking
and
bad
shoot
shots. Yeah.
I think with Dinwiddie, his issue tonight is that when he's the lone point guard. The Mavericks were actually pretty good last year when Dinwiddie. I mean, it wasn't a big sample, so that's what it says. But when Dinwiddie played without Luka and Brunson last year, the Mavs offense actually performed pretty well. Not like killer, but like above average, and that's all you can ask for when your star's not on the floor. But the non-Luka Spencer only point guard minutes tonight were difficult.
I mean,
so
and
that's something they got to figure out.
Like, you're right. I probably should have harped on the Hardaway stuff. That's the first good game Tim Hardaway's had since 2021.
He makes a big difference, man, when he's good.
He's getting good looks. It's just they were going to go down, but he had a couple of really tough ones tonight, like that were guarded. And it's just, he's such a rhythm player. Makes you wonder how, he's just going to get things going. I already talked about Green. I really I don't need him to hit 3 threes a game. I need him to shoot 3 threes a game. He's got to keep these defenses honest. If he's going to play 15 to 20 minutes, they need to find him 3 to 4 shots. They have to.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
The Wood stuff was weird, and I don't know how to properly contextualize it. He got into foul trouble in the first half, and then, where things have gone sideways for Dallas in both of their losses, and really they went sideways tonight too, only they pulled out of it, is there's a stretch of game where, because I want to say that Christian Wood plays from like the 6-minute mark to about the 6-minute mark in the third to about the 8-minute mark in the fourth, and sometimes a little longer. He plays he plays anywhere from 8 to 12-minute spurts so far, really small sample size. Luka then comes back in, but then there's this occasional, it's like there's a in between like the 8-minute and 4-minute mark for the Mavericks, things get goofy. They were leading the Nets in the fourth quarter by a pretty good amount. Let me go pull this up because I was like looking at this, and it happened again and again. Because like you start the fourth up 6, and then they just don't really score very many points. Well, I guess they scored 10, but the net they put in this like sort of defensive lineup, and the Nets just keep coming. And it's like, if your defensive lineup's not working, kind of what's happening here? Like, these fourth quarter things where the Mavericks go from being down to being, or from being up to being down by double digits, because like they were down, it was 100 to 100. I mean, I guess I'm misremembering the last 5 or 6.
I've got the play-by-play up if you want me to kind of.
No, I'm looking at it too. Okay, here's where with 3 minutes left, they're down 4, and things were just weird in order to go down 4, because you start the quarter and I don't know. I'm not really describing this right, but like there's just this tightness that is really reminding me of earlier stage Mavericks that I just wouldn't have expected. And I don't know what the cause is, and I don't know what the solution is either.
Yeah, so Wood left the game in the fourth quarter and they were up 195. And then he checked back in with 5:45. So less than 2 minutes come off the clock. And the Mavericks are down 101 to 100. So, and then he immediately made a 3-pointer to give them back the lead. And then when did he go back out again? And then he left with 2 minutes left, and I think that's the last time he played. And the Nets, but the Mavericks managed to get the game to overtime and, of course, win. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. He still hasn't had a big minute game. He played 24 minutes tonight.
No, and I don't understand really what was happening because I feel like to a certain degree they stole some things because they subbed Christian Wood out for Tim Hardaway for defense. Like what? It worked.
Tim had 2 blocks, which is really funny.
And he had some great rebounds, but it's just like at the time, I think it's fair to say to question. I'm not criticizing. I'm curious as to what the thought process was there because Wood, I don't think he had a bad defensive game. Like I'm not seeing some of the lapses in effort that we saw again, as he played with the Rockets. Like I'm liking what I'm seeing because he's got these really long arms and he contests pretty well at the rim as long as he's in the right place. I don't know. I wonder how they're gonna get more minutes for him because he didn't play any of the overtime, which again was a choice. I don't entirely understand it is all.
I think the thing is right now is he's playing a lot of his minutes with Maxey. And I think at this point of the season, we're 4 games in, and we knew before the season even started, like it wasn't like a backroom anonymous sources say, like quotes from Wood and Kidd directly in training camp. Like he has to earn the coaching staff's trust to be the closer. And I think we're still, even though we think, what we've seen from him so far, we would do it, coaching. I mean, coaches, it takes a little, like they need a little more data. They need a little more film. Like they're just not going to change stuff for, 4 games in, despite whatever evidence there is. And I think when going down the stretch, he didn't want Maxey off the floor because Maxey was playing a really good game and a good defensive game.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I can either do 2 bigs and I can only play, I can't, so basically I can't play Hardaway. I could play Hardaway and play 5 out small ball with Maxey, or I can do 2 bigs, still 5 out, but it's Maxey and Wood. And then I've got Luka with Dorian and Bullock. And when you consider Dorian and Bullock were not good on offense tonight, and Hardaway was like the only perimeter player besides Luka that kind of had some juice offensively in terms of like just making shots and being available for shots and just, I don't know if he created offense, but he was just available there. I think Kidd didn't want to risk, playing Wood, Maxey, the 2 defensive wings, and Luka, and worrying about like what's kind of happened the last couple games where Dorian and Bullock aren't really doing much because they can't get those catch and shoot looks, and then it's kind of just all Luka, wearing himself out trying to literally create everything. And I think with Hardaway, it was just a little bit more open, and he still does. And then he's going to trust Kleber right now over Wood as the lone big. So we just have to wait for that moment.
Yeah. It's like you said something there where it's like, well, Luka literally having to create everything. And that's what happened, though. It's not like, these guys hit their shots, which is the point. They won. Yeah. But I still think that Wood offers levels of, like, they can't just do these ISO Luka runs forever. Like, he's going to die at some point. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree. I think it was just like Finney-Smith was having a horrible offensive game. And I think he just I don't think he wanted to close the game without Hardaway playing next to Luka, because Hardaway was easily the best shooter, like the best secondary scorer tonight.
Okay.
So that's
interesting.
That's my thought process. And eventually, like, they're going to have to get to a place where they can do that lineup, but it's Wood instead of Kleber. Like, that's the goal, I think, this season, is for Wood to earn the trust that he's the 5 guy playing down the stretch, and nothing against Maxey.
Well, it's nice to have the options.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the options.
For sure. And I mean, the Nets don't play very big anyway. So I mean, Simmons was playing a lot of center down the stretch, so they could get away with Maxey as the lone big. But that's my thought process. I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong.
It makes sense. I mean, it's just like the process clearly worked because they won. I'm not harping on it either. I've been thinking a lot about the Wood stuff, and he brings elements that they need, and so they won a game without him playing outstanding, which I think is a value. I just would prefer to think of Wood going forward as the second option and not Luka and the Lukettes. Like that sort of, 41 points, 14 assists or whatever it was, 11 rebounds, like good gravy. Like that's not a sustainable thing.
Like you're just waiting for them to win a game where Luka scores like 25.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's leading the league in scoring. I mean, what do we have right
it's
here?
It's either him or Ja right at the top.
I mean, he is scoring.
He's been above 30 every game, right?
This is dumb. I'm so bad at math.
35, 32, 37, 41.
Yeah, 34.3 minutes, and then points, he's at 34.7. This is like Kobe Bryant crap.
Yeah.
Like this stuff hasn't been done in a decade. Now, granted, it'll go down, but they need to win a game with him scoring 25, and then I'll feel a little bit better because good Lord. I mean, the other thing to talk about, I think, is nice if we're just kind of, shooting the shit at this point. Luka's hitting his free throws. And
yeah, man.
He's shooting 87% from the line.
That's crazy. And that's not like a little jump. I mean, that's he's about 13 points over his career average, I think, which is was 74. So good on him. I mean, that's a huge difference. He even shot a technical free throw, which he didn't.
Well, that's how you go from being a 28 point per game score to being a 31 point per game score, just by hitting one more free throw a game. It makes play. It's I don't know. That was a really delightful Luka performance, and really kind of a full Luka performance where I didn't get to see the Grizzlies game except from really far away. And against the Suns, one of the things that made that Suns game weird, yes, he scored 35 points, but he went like 7 or 8 minutes without scoring at all. And it was like third quarter where things were getting really funky. And it's just nice. Like I'm glad we get to tune in and watch a guy like this every night. My friend Jared Dubin was at the game because he lives in New York and he goes to Nets and Knicks games. And he's like, I forgot what it was like to watch Luka play in person. Just the kind of stuff that he's able to do and get away with. And yeah, really, really nice. Beyond.
How'd you like that pass to Maxey?
It's
behind the back over the head.
That's one of the that's like the third best pass he threw somehow. I don't know. That was incredible. That was incredible. I will say, I need you to talk about this for a minute. You started laughing out loud during our stat 3:11. The Brooklyn Nets call timeout. Then we get ready to go back to the game, and what happens next?
Jason Kidd calls a timeout.
Talk about this for a minute, because I think this is a fun point.
So I think this has been going back. So last season, I noticed because of the NBA's new rule. I don't know the specific rule. I just know that toward the end of the game, you lose. You can only get 2 timeouts for the final 3 minutes or something like that.
You lose timeouts basically if you don't use them.
All right, and every single time, Kidd, there's a stoppage of play, and Kidd realizes he has a timeout to burn or he's going to lose it. He always takes it, even if that means it's double timeouts. And it's hilarious because a big talking point about the NBA in general is just what's good for the state of the game in terms of it being an entertainment product. And there's been a lot of hubbub about ratings and the watchability of the game. And they're trying to do stuff the take foul and transition. They're trying to get things out of the game that muck it up and slow it down. I think they even changed there's less replay now, because all the stoppages, the final 2 minutes of an NBA game, remember 5 or 6 years ago, the final 2 minutes of an NBA game would take 3 hours. It was just absurd. Yes. So they're trying to get that out of the game and just increase the pace of play because it's more, more fun to watch instead of sitting through 5 minutes of commercial breaks. So it's always funny to me that it feels like Jason Kidd has a vendetta against those rules, and just every now and then we get a 5-minute break in the middle of the with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter because he's going to use those timeouts, man. He's not wasting them.
I love it. I love it. Just such a weird.
Like nothing. That's not a criticism. It's just funny.
No, it's just like it was a funny thing because we're sitting there and like all of us, and granted, this just happens.
Like, when's the
when we
game
cover
start?
games?
Back up. Like,
Like,
was there a fight in the stands? What's going on? Like, why is the stoppage taking so long? Oh, another timeout.
Yeah, another timeout. Also, just like while we're here, Kevin Durant is so stupidly good at basketball.
He is, but man, you could see the second night of that back-to-back on him in the last 5 minutes of the fourth and OT. How many open shots?
He missed that open three from the left wing when he shot faked, and I was like, oh no, he just doesn't have this.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, like, before we go, we're not a Nets podcast, but this is the first time I watched the Nets, and I didn't really watch them a lot last season. Like, they're a bad team. I'm not trying to take anything from the Mavericks win, but like, I was kind of shocked at how unimpressed I was with them compared to, like, you know, where I was when I watched them, like when they almost beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs and they looked like the best, like they were just going to take over the league for like 2 or 3 years. Like, and now what they are from that moment is just, it's staggering. Like, they don't have an identity. There's no system. There's no style. It's literally just, okay, give the ball to Kyrie and Durant. Let's see what they can do. And then if they can't do anything, we're screwed. Like, there's just like their bench, like they play with energy, like the Watanabe and Mills and Sumner and the unfortunately named Duke Jr. Like, those guys, when they play with energy, like and Claxton, but when they get the ball, it's like they have no direction. Like, there's just nothing. Like, they're not scheming guys open looks. It's literally just Durant, Kyrie taking turns, and every other guy just trying to get maybe like some garbage buckets off offensive rebounds or something like that. Like, it's crazy. Like, I can't believe that this team, like, and Durant and Kyrie I felt like they were sleepwalking through the first 3 quarters until they woke up in the fourth and the end of the third. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Mavs win. I just thought it was pretty crazy that a team with Durant and Kyrie Irving, you know, whatever criticisms you have of them as off the court or whatever, like, that this team could look this lifeless and like indistinct. It's crazy. Like, they don't run offense. They don't do anything. They just take turns dribbling and shooting jumpers. It's crazy.
Well, and then like you look at the counts, and Kyrie Irving scored 39 points on 31 shots. Kevin Durant scored 37 points on 21 shots, 10 fewer shots, 2 less points. And it's he kind of like, Kyrie took 14 threes, and he kind of, for a while, he got baited into a bit of a duel because he took, like, I think he got fouled really hard or something. I can't remember. It was in like the first quarter. I remember thinking, because they're like, Kyrie Irving, despite his proclivity for making really difficult shots, he is actually like not as good around the rim as you might think. But then like tonight, he's just hitting everything. Like, it felt like, and then I'm looking at he missed 17 shots. And I'm like, where did those 17 misses come from? Because I feel like he made everything. But they're just they're a peculiar team. Glad we don't have to cover them.
No, my God. If I was mad about the way the Mavericks would lose games where Luka scores all the points and no one else does anything, I would tear my hair out watching this Nets team, because that's basically their team until they get Seth Curry back, I guess. But man. Just wanted to get that. I mean, we're not a Nets podcast. Sure. I'm sorry, but that was just like, I was watching the whole game and I wasn't tweeting a lot tonight because I just didn't want to. And I was just like, man, at no point was I like, this Nets team is scaring me. Like, every time the Mavericks, they made a run, I was like, well, this is just fueled because the Mavericks are playing like ding dongs. And then when the Mavericks didn't, they would go on a run and take a lead. Like, it was just crazy. So anyway, still good win. Good win for the Nets.
Oh, this has been fun. I'm sorry my voice is garbo again, team. I once again don't feel the best because I am somehow mildly allergic to Texas, but I hope I don't sound too terrible. We'll have one day off, and then we have our first back-to-back of the season against, I want to say, Oklahoma City first, and then the Magic on Sunday. So we'll have a lot of stuff, a lot of game content. Please check out MavsMoneyball.com. Let us know what you think. Download and subscribe, or follow me on Spotify Live, because we will definitely be covering those games or hopping on that after games. I'm going to do that right now. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening or your morning with us. Have a good day, guys.